Hey, in this video, we are going to be discussing default dating, what it is, why it's important, and how you can tell if you're doing it. So if you are frustrated with your dating life, you keep having kind of the same experience over and over again, stay tuned and watch the whole thing. And if you're new, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any real deal advice. Hello, everybody. We're live, and this is Boo. I thought I would introduce you. I will say welcome to Dating by Default. That's what we're going to talk to you about today. So let's talk about what dating by default even is. And when I tell you, you're probably going to say, well, that's just dating, isn't it? Dating by default is essentially when you try to make it work with whoever picks you. Like you're kind of out and about in the world. Sometimes people will even be like, I'm done with men. I'm just like leaving it up to God or the universe to just like plop the right guy into my life. And I understand that resignation. I understand that feeling. But if you haven't been clear with what makes the guy right for you, then really you're just going to be reacting. You're just going to be responding to whoever chooses you, whoever asks you out, whoever you sort of bump into at the market, which could be a great thing. But we don't really know who you're bringing into your reality. Like, who are you attracting into your world? And, it's almost like you want to get your net to be more, you want to tighten up the filter on what you're drawing into your life. So if you've studied the law of attraction at all, or heard of it, then you know that the idea is essentially that you attract into your life what you are vibrating on. So let's say you turn a radio dial to a station and that has a frequency. The way the radio works is that it joins, like attracts like, and it joins with the same frequency. And that's why you can hear it. That's why it essentially manifests, right? So that's just one example, one way to explain the law of attraction. I won't get like heavy into quantum physics, but we actually, let's put it to you this way, even if you don't want to believe that it's that. If you're just going about your life and you don't need a car or whatever, you don't really notice as much the car ads and the things that are going on about cars and car loans and car sales and all that stuff. Doesn't mean they're not there. They're just not really coming into your awareness. So at a bare minimum, when you think about it, think about the fact that once you need a car, okay, whether you're looking or not, suddenly you're aware in your world of everything having to do with cars and car loans and financing and sales. And you see them in the junk mail, and you notice them, and you notice cars on the road that you've been thinking about buying. And just the fact that those things come into your awareness, if you can even just play with it in that sense, that you are looking for something specific, that it will come more into your awareness and into your experience. It doesn't mean those ads weren't there before. It just means that now they're coming into your awareness. So you wouldn't necessarily look for a job by default, or even better, a school. You wouldn't necessarily, like, let's say you wanted to be a lawyer. You wouldn't just go about your life, walk into different schools, sit down and invest your time in the classroom and getting to know this information, and then go, this is a massage school. I'm not going to learn law here. I'm not going to learn law here. And then just kind of stick around because like you've already invested the time. So no, if you wanted to go to law school, you would get real clear about what kind of law school you wanted to go to. You would be like, well, do I want a really experiential school, or do I want like a very technical school? Do I want a school where I'm going to like go ultimately into, turning over appeals, or, things like that? You're going to look at like, what do I want my experience to be in law school? And what do I want my experience to be when I graduate? Like, what do I want my life to look like? And what jobs do I want available to me? So you would get very clear about how you wanted your future to look and how you wanted your future to feel. And feeling is the key. Feeling is what actually radiates out your vibration. Your feelings create vibrations. and your emotions, your positive emotions are the magnet that bring those things into you. So we'll talk about that in more detail in another one, but I just wanted to get you aware of what it means to date by default and just give you an introduction to what it means to be intentional about anything. Okay. So let's talk about why it's important. Because if you are dating by default and you don't have a filter going. So let's talk about why this is important. The main reason this is important is one, as we know, hanging around in the wrong relationship wastes your time. And for many women, especially if you're like in your 30s and you want to have babies and you want to get on with like the family thing, then your time is precious. And men don't necessarily understand that. They can't really relate to that idea. They can have their first baby when they're 50 and they don't care. So that is a real issue when it comes to timing, right? And so if you have a goal and you have a vision for your life that you're trying to create, then that's a real thing. You do have kind of this biological clock, and modern medicine is wonderful, but also very expensive. And let me tell you, chasing around babies when you're in your late 40s is kind of exhausting. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, take care of yourself, be prepared, because it's tiring. So let's get efficient with your time and with your dream. The other bigger problem that I see as the biggest problem is this. It really adds to your story of negative dating experience. It just continually adds to the idea that there are no good men out there, that all the good ones are taken. You're not going to find anybody who you're really attracted to physically, that you just have to kind of settle for whoever chooses you, or you got to put up with a bunch of shit, or you can't really be happy, or you can't be your full self. Like there's this story that anybody you get invested in is going to hurt you or disappoint you or let you down. And that happens because you're continually, signing up for the wrong school. And I think that those signs, those red flags, if you want to call them that, or just the sign that this person isn't the best match for you, I think that happens a lot sooner than we admit. I think that if you really look at how somebody's disappointing you, most of the time when I ask a client, so when was the first time you saw this kind of behavior? When was the first time that he flaked on you, or was super late, or just kind of was a little bit weird about information or something like that? And they'll go like, about 3 weeks in. You go, okay, all right. So let's talk about what that felt like in your body and how you might recognize that next time. And that's another conversation that we can have. So the reason that this happens most of the time, there's I would say 3 reasons that this happens. One is that you think this is as good as it's going to get, and it's better than being alone. And what happens then is we continue to stay in relationship, become identified with the relationship, maybe even become identified with being a couple. And sometimes that happens very quickly. And then there's this momentum and this pressure essentially to make it work. And so you kind of start pretzeling yourself, you sort of change who you are, and maybe even change your goals in life, maybe even consider, I've known women dating somebody 6 weeks, consider living someplace that they would never want to live. And that's okay if the guy is just amazing and he's your man and you feel completely fulfilled and like you can grow and expand in any way that you want. But when the identity as a couple starts to become the determining factor in your decisions and how you're going to live your life, and you're not even sure if this person is really making you happy, that is because of momentum. That's just because of, God, I just don't want to be alone again. I'm happy to finally be in a relationship. I'm happy to be making, in something, and I'm just going to make this thing work. And to say men are not easily changed is an understatement. And nobody wants to be changed, really. They can be inspired to be their best selves, but nobody really wants to feel like they're in a relationship based on potential and that their partner, male or female, whatever, is trying to change them fundamentally. So, but as women, we tend to tolerate that a little bit more. We tend to adjust and modify and like make things comfortable for the other person. So that is one of the main reasons that the momentum continues, and you can be sort of dating by default. You're dating whoever like you kind of just ended up with, and kind of staying for the wrong reasons, essentially, because we are in relationship for joy. You know, most of the time we're not choosing relationship for survival anymore. Like, we can work and we can make money, and we can enjoy our lives single, without being considered, spinsters and old maids or second-class citizens. So this sounds like an aside, but truly, in the history of human experience, this is relatively new. And when you look at even 100 years, it's sort of the blink of an eye. And so we're dealing with generational history that makes us, on some level in ourselves, believe or buy into the idea that we really need a man under any circumstance. So it's important to remember that we do choose relationship for joy, and we choose it to feel partnered, and we choose it to feel witnessed, and we choose it for companionship and love and expression and expansion. So the second reason that this can happen is because he's a really nice guy. And I hear this quote all the time, and you just don't let a guy like that go. And I get that. And I dated quite a few super nice guys. I tend to attract really nice people. And there were a couple times that I was really, really disappointed that I wasn't really physically attracted to this person. And it was a bummer, but I wasn't going to, for their sake or for mine, enter into a relationship that was really ultimately would have been a good friendship, and would have been hurting that other person if I didn't want them in the way that they deserve to be wanted, and I'm not sure what happened. I have two people in mind right now. I'm not sure what happened with one of them. I'm sure he found somebody wonderful, but I know for a fact, because I did stay friends with one of them, that he found this amazing relationship. And I'm so, happy that I let him go in time so he could catch her before she found somebody else. So, and they're married and happy and wonderful now. So it doesn't really serve anybody to just be like, well, but they're just such a nice person, I'm going to try to make myself attracted to them, or I'm going to try to make myself want a relationship with them. And it's really important to be attracted to your life partner, because this is your sexual partner, and we can't forget that. And it's not like, well, if you really love each other, sex doesn't matter. Sex matters. And it really matters over the long haul, particularly if you're going to take a vow of monogamy. And this is the only person with whom you get to express the sexual side of you, then you need to be sexually attracted to your life partner. That's not like that'd be nice if it was there, but it's really important for both of you, because nobody takes a vow of celibacy when they get up to the altar. So that they certainly don't want to take a vow of celibacy. So if you are not finding yourself attracted to this person, then you need to move forward and not continue to try to make it work. So the third reason that this happens is because of sexual bonding. And this is the most detrimental dating by default circumstance. What happens is you might go on one or two dates with somebody, end up sleeping with them. Maybe there is a lot of physical attraction, but there's not a lot of true getting to know each other. And maybe you've had 4, 8, 12 hours of FaceTime. But what has happened when you bond sexually, particularly for women, I'm not saying this doesn't happen for men, but there is more oxytocin released for women than there is for men. They have more dopamine released. So oxytocin is a trust and bonding hormone that is released when you are cuddling, having sex, having an orgasm, and this makes you feel closer to this person. And now you are bonded chemically to this person. Okay. So because of all of our social history of female sexuality being oppressed, and that we sort of need a man to be validated and all of these things. And I'm not saying, some of you might be like, hey man, that's not my generation. Trust me, it's in your bones somewhere. It's in your cellular memory somewhere. Okay. And we still have a paradigm of value around women. We still have slut shaming. We still have all of this stuff like really brewing in our culture. So I'm not saying be victimized by it. I'm just saying be aware of it and how it affects your thought process. Because what happens is we sleep with somebody and then we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to be like, I probably shouldn't have shared myself with that person because they don't really care about me as much as I thought they did. And the funny thing is, it's sort of an after the fact thinking they should care about you because you slept with them. And I'm talking about when, like, you meet somebody at a bar and you end up like clicking and you have sex, or you go on a second or third date, and you're feeling good about it and you have sex with this person, and maybe it's just a great experience, but it might not be an experience with the person that you really want to be life partners with. I don't have any judgment about sleeping with anybody on the first, second, third, fourth. I don't care what you do. But what I want you to be aware of is that when you do that, now you've bonded with that person in a way that's a little bit beyond your conscious mind. And so wanting to make it work, wanting that decision to have been right, or just literally not wanting to break with that person because you feel bonded to them and you feel attached to them, is how we really get stuck in these relationships with people that really, when you think about it logically, these are a complete stranger. And we've somehow decided that they should be the one, or that this should work out, or can't believe that he would behave a certain way. And it's like, well, why can't you believe that? You barely know the guy. He's showing you who you are. But you've got this pillow talk and this bonding and all of this stuff that makes it seem like, oh, this should be this successful romantic situation. And every time you sleep together, you just get more and more bonded. And that is, I just don't want you to underestimate the power of that, and the power of the sweetness or the sexiness or anything that happens in that situation that makes you feel really seen and makes you feel really wanted. But who and how somebody is in relationship is an entirely different story than who and how they are in the bedroom for the first few weeks. So that's what you have to allow yourself to truly find out and uncover. So that is the number one reason that we date by default. And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't sleep with somebody, or that, but just understand what it is you're making yourself susceptible to in your reasoning. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to give you a few questions to ask yourself when you're seeing somebody. Okay. Let's say you've gone out with somebody for a few weeks, you've slept together, you're attracted to him, seems like a nice guy, but you can't really communicate very well. He might be a little flaky, he's starting to bug you, basically. And that's not to say that those things aren't necessarily worth just speaking up about and working through, okay? If you feel good with this person and you also feel pretty good about how they stay connected, I would say that's the biggest challenge with men. And so in some ways we have to kind of teach them how to treat us. But in other ways, if they don't seem kind and well-meaning at times, then you want to question why you're spending more time with them, why you're pursuing it, why you're continuing it. And so if you take this like 3-week movie montage that's like full of all this energy and excitement and love, right? And you just go, okay, I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that on the table over here. And I'm going to really think about how I feel with this person being like the center of my world right now, and really think about, is this life partner potential? Okay. Of course, there's am I really excited to see him, or am I just happy to have plans? And I get it. Sometimes we are just happy to have plans. And you may feel like you've like met a good friend, and you're just like, it might not be more. That's sort of that situation where you might be just dating somebody that's really nice and you're happy to have plans and you're happy to have somebody to go out with, but you want to make sure that this relationship is on the trajectory then of a friendship and not necessarily keeping you from dating other people or looking for other people. So so ask yourself, am I excited to see him or am I just happy to have plans? And, that's a valid place to be, because we don't really know how we feel about somebody just because you found somebody attractive the first day you met them, or, maybe it was just a mental attraction or whatever. And then you realize, well, I think I need to be more physically attracted to this person. So that's fair to him as well, because you don't want to be wasting his time. Then go back to that question that I mentioned before. When is the first time that I noticed this disappointing behavior? Let's say you're like 2-3 months in and you're like, okay, this time he's really flaked on me when it was really important and I got a babysitter and this is totally fucked up. And, come to think of it, when was the first time he did something like this? And you kind of go back maybe all the way to like 3 weeks and you go, okay, this is who he is. This is not an anomaly. Okay. And he's either, not into you enough, or he's just, he's not good at keeping his word. And you can try addressing it if there's a lot of other things in place that are really working for you. But you also have to acknowledge this is who he is. It's probably who he was before he met you, and it's going to be who he is for the next person too. So look at when you started to notice the behavior that's starting to bother you, because the truth is you don't really know somebody for like 3 or 4 months, and then you're just like really just getting to know truly who they are and how they are in the world. You see how they treat servers at restaurants, and you see what kind of friends they have, and you see how they communicate, and you see how they handle a situation like where they may have flaked on you or disappointed you. Like how did they handle that? Did they make sure that they sort of fixed it or made up for it in whatever way that still made you feel seen and made you feel like they care? Then that's just relationships, right? But if you really start to see like, well, this is just how they are, and if a guy tells you, look, I'm kind of an asshole, believe him. Believe what people say about themselves, because he's warning you. That's like a nice little game that they play where they're like, well, I'm really an asshole. I mean, like I don't deserve to go out with somebody as nice as you. He's telling you the truth. And what he's doing is he's sort of testing you, saying, well, I warned her. And that gives him permission to kind of be the shitty person that he is. It gives him permission to fall short all the time. And it's like, well, I told you. And I see it all the time that when somebody tells you who they are, and I would say the same thing to a man. If a woman says like, look, I'm just a crazy bitch, I'm going to be blah, 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 believe her, because when people warn you that way, it's part of their identity and it's part of how they operate in the world. So the most important question that I want you to ask yourself, if you suspect that you are kind of in a momentum situation, you've been kind of dating somebody that kind of is showing signs of not really being who you want to be dating, ask yourself, if I hadn't slept with him, would I still be dating him? And that's a tough question. If you hadn't slept with him, would you still be dating him? If you didn't feel vulnerable in that way, if you didn't feel bonded in that way, if you didn't feel like you had kind of established this romantic thing with him, would you, and you knew everything you know now, would you still go out with him? And I think you will be able to find your truth in that answer, because what that's doing is that's helping you get objective about the chemical bonding that you have going on, and gets you objective about the vulnerability that you have with that person. Because we share so much when we become sexual with a person, we become like these walls come down and we become very vulnerable. We share a lot about ourselves. We share a lot about our history. We share a lot about our feelings and our lives and our dreams. And now you feel like this person's kind of carrying a part of you around in the world. And so if you kind of reclaim that and you go, okay, if I hadn't done that, would I still feel the need or the attachment to continue this relationship? And if the answer is no, then you've got your truth. And if the answer is yes, then you're going to be looking at someone who feels good for you to be around and that has a lot of the qualities that you want. And you may have to be setting some boundaries or stating your needs and like helping them adjust, because if he's a good and well-meaning guy, he's going to want to make you happy. You know, I don't mean he's going to necessarily want to be your servant. I'm just saying, like, if he's a good and well-meaning person, men love to make women happy. Like that's what they love to do. Good men, you know? So, and there's lots of beautiful men out there. And so the important thing is for you to get really clear about what you want in life and what you want in your relationship. How do you want to feel? How do you want to feel when he talks about you in front of other people? How do you want to feel when you're introducing him to your friends? Like these are feeling level questions, and we're going to talk about that more. I'll just wrap this up now by saying default dating is just trying to make it work with whoever has chosen you, most likely whoever you have slept with, because you have to remember that there is what we call an oxytocin release. That is a trust and bonding hormone that you experience when you have sex with somebody. And men also have some oxytocin release, but they mostly have dopamine released, which is a feel-good hormone. So be aware of the trust and bonding that goes on when you have sex with somebody. And this is important because the more disappointing relationships you have, the more you're going to generalize that idea that dating sucks and men suck and nothing is right. But the truth is you have to tighten up your filter. And you can tighten up your filter by really thinking about how you want to feel in the world and being very specific about what you want in a relationship. Just like you would be specific about the kind of job you want or the kind of school you want to go to or how you want your health to be, anything like that. We get very specific about other things in our lives, but we feel because there's somebody else involved that we can't be specific. And you can absolutely be specific. There's like billions of people in the world. So be specific in your desire about how you want to feel in relationship. Okay. And I'll give you some tips on how to do that in another video. So ask yourself, am I doing this just because I'm bored, basically? And, you know, does whatever's disappointing me, does that seem like a consistent quality in this person? And is it worth addressing it? Or am I just really not interested in being in relationship with a person who does X, Y, or Z? And then ask yourself, if I hadn't slept with him, would I still be going out with him? Okay, that is the key. And I am going to end this here. And also, I am going to be releasing Intentional Dating, the book. So I'm very excited about that. And it is available for pre-order right now on Amazon.com. And you have to put in Intentional Dating, Sophie Venable, and then you'll find it if you want to get it on Kindle. But if you want to wait for paperback, then we'll have a little paperback release party. And I will announce that soon. All right. So everybody have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon. Hey, Boo and I say thanks for watching. And if you liked what you learned here today, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends where they can find real dating advice for real life. Bye for now.